Brian and I are here with Kris Lahiri. He is the Chief Security Officer and co-founder of Egnyte, a content services platform, and he's going to talk to us today about security and working from home. Hi, Kris. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey guys, good to be here.
So before we kind of get started, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do over at Egnyte?
Sure. I'm one of the co-founders of Egnyte. As you said, Egnyte's a company that we started here in Silicon Valley back in 2008. So it's been 12 years that we've been together. There are 4 co-founders and we are all together running the company. The company is now almost 700 employees worldwide. We've got 16,000 customers. All of our customers are actually companies, small, medium, and large, across all kinds of industries. So it's been a great journey. We've learned a lot. The products come along. And for me personally, it's been a huge, very fulfilling experience. Before Egnyte, I used to be a part of what was then known as the Big 5, Big 6 consulting world. I'd started my career at KPMG Consulting. And as a part of that, had dealt with Fortune 100 customers, building out large scale infrastructures for them, and kind of predates the cloud world, but have been involved in technology all my life.
So Kris, I mean, we're in a current situation here. A lot of people are working remotely. And I was wondering, we want to know, what are some of the biggest concerns around data and privacy that people are experiencing?
That's a good, like a fairly open question, and I'll try not to geek out too much with my, security background, but this is a term that you will hear quite a bit, and we are hearing this from our CIOs and other customers that we are talking to, and that is this word called, or phrase called, threat landscape. The threat landscape, vector, surface, pick your word, has really expanded significantly now. This is primarily because as soon as everybody has started working from home, what, let's say, a 1,000-person company, if they were in 1 or 2 offices, everybody was really focused on working from within that location. Now that's just completely expanded. Now it's across everybody's homes and other places that they're working from. So this has presented new challenges, I would say, to the IT department, to the security department on how to identify, handle, mitigate issues. So that's kind of become one of the core security concerns in this new world. And privacy, it comes related to it. I do not like to equate security and privacy. These are actually 2 different things. And I'm sure we'll get into some more of these details. But at the core of it, the problems the same, and the challenges really are the same.
Did you find that, like, because I know when this first started, like I had friends that were like, hey, we finally got a VPN, and it was like, okay, but did you find there was such diversity if some companies were really prepared, for that security aspect, with remote workers because they were already doing it versus companies who had never done it before?
Yes, we've seen the whole spectrum, Brian. Like one is some folks who, so there have been 3 phases. Okay, there's one set which was already prepared. This was like nothing. It was like, okay, you guys just work from home, life continues, and they've hardly seen a drop in productivity at all. Most of the issues they've dealt with is childcare and other things associated with working from home, nothing from a work perspective. Then there are the other kinds who were just completely caught unawares. And these are the guys who are like, they've been putting off the modernization, then, pick your term on there, right? Infrastructure modernization. They're like, yeah, we'll get to it. I know we need to do something about it. They are the ones who have suddenly accelerated, okay, I need to do something right now. Otherwise I'm losing productivity. And then there are others who were kind of, like in the middle. They weren't really sure if they needed to do some of these things. And for some of them, they are the ones who are really going through their vendors, doing vendor selections, picking a solution and deciding on, okay, this is what we're going to do. And that phase was the most interesting one, like everyone's seen that I think everybody's been home since mid-March, okay?
Mhm.
At least in the US, or if not worldwide. Some people thought, oh, it's a matter of a quarter, we'll just ride this out. Things will probably be okay by the end of the year. And those guys are really now saying that, no, this doesn't look like there's an end in sight. I need to do something about it right now. So yeah, we've seen all these three cases.
Yeah, it's interesting that people wouldn't, to me, that people wouldn't prepare, right? Because you never know what's going to happen. Forget about this pandemic, but you never know what's going to happen where you may need your workers working remotely and being secure.
That's right.
So Kris, recently Egnyte conducted a survey, correct? You examined the challenges of protecting data with widespread remote work. So of these findings, what kind of shocked you the most when it came to the survey?
Actually, we are calling this the Data Governance Trends Report for 2020, and what it was done by an independent third party called Wakefield Research that surveyed about 400 CIOs and IT leaders across different industries, to understand challenges associated with remote working. And there were some which was standard, like the things that I was not surprised by is the true concern of how there is a device sprawl. People are using many devices, sometimes personal devices and all that to connect, and all that was kind of expected. But the thing that really got me is that the CIOs have, or 29%, if I remember, of the CIOs have given their employees an A for following policies and procedures, okay? Which means the majority of them have not been following the very same policies and procedures to keep documents safe and secure about how you collaborate that the company itself has set, and the employees would most likely follow them. But now that they've been dispersed, or they're having to work remotely or work from home, they've kind of reverted, or sometimes even been forced to, create their own shadow IT, either because they weren't being able to achieve the outcome that they wanted, or because they ran into other problems because of, where they are. That's the one thing that really surprised me. I would have thought, that number would have been a little better. And that also concerns me, saying that, if that few, or if the majority of the people are not following the policies, then that is a cause for concern.
Now, do you think was there reasoning why they believe they weren't following the policies, or do you have any speculation on that, like why they may have not been following it, just because it was easier to not, or?
I have a feeling, and this is just more anecdotal, because I think I've only reviewed the results of the report, but also in talking to other CIOs and my peers, I think majority of it, I personally don't think anybody just inherently is trying to do malicious stuff. There is a small group of people, the bad actors, they're doing that, but the general employee is not consciously trying to do the wrong thing. So the reason why they are ending up in the situation is either because some things are just easier to do the older way, or things have become really hard. Like for example, Brian, you brought up a case about people set up VPNs, but you very quickly realize that in today's world, there's so much SaaS, software as a service application. Everybody is doing some things on some SaaS platform, whereas VPN gets you this secure tunnel into one location. And many times, people find that, I'm doing something on a SaaS platform, but I can't get to my data on this VPN. So I'm just going to email it or copy it to, some other location, just because it becomes easier for them to do it. Or, there is a time crunch, right? Like people are trying to get stuff done quickly, and in order to save time on something, they found let's say, a more insecure way of doing something, right? And that's how it worked out. So I think those types of cases where it's a little bit, I feel like it's hard to blame IT, but sometimes the IT folks need to understand their users. Their consumers are the rest of the employees, right? So they need to understand how to make their life easier, understand that workflow. And in some cases, maybe that hasn't been the case, which is what's causing, this creep.
So what are some of the basic protocols that organizations should have in place when it comes to, privacy and security?
Going back a little bit to my, the threat landscape thing and the expanding thing that I was referring to, I think all organizations should scale their monitoring and enforcement policies. Okay, there are some basic things that everybody needs to enforce. Things like using single sign-on. If someone's been on the fence about choosing a single sign-on solution like Okta or something else, where all of the core enterprise software components are all managed by some central service, right? So if there is a compromise, if someone's password has a problem, you are able to take very swift and immediate action. Plus, you're also able to audit for things like that, right? So that's one of the things that I feel it's just basic data hygiene, I feel, which everybody should embrace very quickly. But also, I think because so many people are now distributed and doing work from such different locations, I feel most companies need to adopt some mechanism of detecting what we refer to as anomalous behavior or unusual behavior. Things like unusual access patterns, like a sudden change in data access volume, or doing something out of context. A lot of this, there are many solutions there that do the things like this. You'll hear machine learning and these types of things being thrown out quite a bit. And these are the types of solutions that are, ripe for this detecting this type of activity. So if companies embrace some such solution which helps you flag, a malicious attack or a threat faster, then they're able to react to it much faster.
Now, what about some common misconceptions about privacy and data and its importance? I think I could be guilty of thinking, who's really gonna, who really wants to come into here, and grab these documents or something like that? What do you find are some of those kind of misconceptions, or just, we brush it off and we think of it, very nonchalantly? Do you feel that that's common amongst employees?
Yes, and here I think it would be interesting to dig a little bit into data privacy, or at least my views about it. My perspective may be a little skewed from what Egnyte does and what the type of industries that we service. For us, we feel all data is sensitive, right? So there needs to be some basic data protection that needs to go in for all data. It doesn't matter if it's a picture or if it's a spreadsheet with salary information and social security number, right? Each one is sensitive data for in a certain context. Like pictures may be very sensitive to the person who is in there, right? So data needs to be protected in a certain way. But data privacy, I think, is inordinately skewed towards what's referred to as PII, personal identifiable information. So a lot of these new compliances, GDPR, CCPA, some of the other state compliances and all of that that's coming out is very targeted towards PII data, primarily because over the last 20 years, this has become a crapshoot, frankly. Like people have been very, very lax in terms of how they share this data. This data is happily, sold. Credit cards sell this data. All kinds of industries are just bundling these and selling this data. And that's why I think truly different governments, it really started in Europe with the GDPR and all of that, said enough is enough, right? We need to do something about protecting this PII data, right? However, this is true for all kinds of other data. HIPAA has always been there, which is the health information. That's been a standard that's been in the US for a long time. So health information is protected. Personal information now, there is a magnifying glass in there, and that is data privacy. But there's all kinds of like even a company like us, for example, we have 16,000 customers. There is some amount of data which we consider as sensitive data, and we have to pay very close attention to what do we do about this. We need to make sure that we are not, what they call as sub-processing or selling this data down to someone else, or we are really using this data only for the business that we are in and not happily just using it for other things, right? So I think this magnifying glass that's really started, I would say, back in 2018 with GDPR, has made everybody a lot more sensitive to how do we deal with data privacy.
So Brian, I knew you had some questions about GDPR. Actually, I figured now's a good
Well,
time.
I actually think Kris answered them with what he was saying, because I was really, what my question was pretty much what he addressed. Like, companies that are dealing with other people's data, how sensitive do they need to be that with oncoming new restrictions that are in the works? But you pretty much answered that with every piece of data should be secure data, right? Do you know what I mean? And that really is how it should be handled. So I think Kris answered my question about GDPR.
Great.
And what about you guys over at Egnyte? Are there things that you're doing differently now? I mean, now that you're working with clients who may be working from home, are there different, protocols you're putting into place? How are things changing for you as a company?
Yeah. So from an employee standpoint, like I said, we have about 700 employees in maybe about 5 offices worldwide. We've got 3 in the US and 2 in Europe. So we've had to deal with different countries' response to the pandemic and how offices have been shut down and all of that. So from that perspective, I think, Egnyte's been uniquely set up because we've been using Egnyte from a document perspective, but we've also had to pay a lot of attention to all the other tools that we use, right? Like HR tools, Zoom, of course, like we are on is now become a lifesaver in terms of how we collaborate or interact with each other. And we've had our cases in the early days of Zoom bombing, and Zoom itself stepped up and fixed a lot of their security issues that they had, right? So our IT team has kind of been on point, making sure that we communicate with everybody, make sure that they are setting up meetings the right way, password protected, and all of that. From a business standpoint, it's been interesting. Like our customers are across all industries. So the industries that are, let's say, in retail or hospitality that have been impacted, right? Their business, their let's say forecasts for the rest of the year have seriously dropped. So Egnyte's value prop for those companies has changed. It's been about, let us be a central source of where you keep your data. We understand you're not growing, but here's all the data governance and everything that you need to have in place. So we've been doing things to help them while their business is suffering. But then there are other industries like life sciences and IT consulting or business consulting. This is just booming. This is that other set where they're like, look, we've been on the fence on some of these things, but this is the way forward for us. Some companies are, just saying, hey, it'll be remote work forever from now on. We are giving up our offices and all of that. So for those companies, we are doubling down and showing them, more things that they can do with Egnyte or looking at our overall platform and things like that. So that's how, our business has reacted to this.
So I am going to ask you for some tips for employees, but before I go there, I have a question, a personal question. When we talk about, data breaches and things like that, for the common company, let's say a small to mid-sized business, what are people really taking from people? When they come in, what is really, I guess I have troubles understanding. I'm thinking about our company, Brian.
I think she's wondering why people would.
I just want to understand why
people hack our company and try to steal stuff. I think is what you're
why. That's my question. Why? What do they want?
Yeah, this is very interesting. That I've seen this reaction from so many different types of companies. Some say, hey, I really don't have anything. Yeah, you can come take it. I don't care. Right. And but then you got to think of it again in some context. Think about it in some cases it's more competitive info. You felt like, hey, this is not important. But imagine if all your strategy, if there's some work that you had done, something that you had really paid a lot of attention to, you paid let's say consultants to come do some work, create some content for you, and that's now suddenly just easily available to someone else, a competitor, someone else on the dark web, or whoever else may be willing to take that, right? That is something you may feel bad about it. You may just feel like, I'm pretty sure the reaction won't be, sure, go ahead, do what you can.
You can have
Still
it.
be a little bit about, I wish they didn't have it, right?
Right.
On the other hand, it's who you work with. What documents and all you have may not be that important, but let's say your entire user base, all the people that you interact with, every type of connection that you've made, the historical context of that may be useful to someone else, saying that, okay, here's how a YouTube channel has really grown to so many views and all of that, and all the work and effort that you put in is now out for someone else, right? So I'm just giving you a specific case for yourself, but there are many such things like this, which is very much in context. What data you feel like that actual document or that Excel file probably may not feel as, oh, this is something that you need to protect, or it's like some crown jewels. But in totality, the stuff that someone can take from you in a data breach may be really important. And again, I would say that it is in context right now, because of all of these big things that have happened with Equifax and the things in the last year with the Target breach and all of that. PII is really important, right? So someone being able to do a quick loan, as being able to impersonate someone else, and by just getting that type of data has the highest value, as opposed to, let's say, some business document and some strategy and other things.
Right.
But having said that, I think those are the types of breaches that make the news. But a company that has lost, some strategic information or other things, that won't make the news, but it is, you can bet that it's a pretty bad day for them when that happens.
I get it. That was a really good explanation for me, because I was having trouble what do they want from me, but I understand. I do.
Yeah.
So Kris, can you tell employees what they should be doing right now as they're working from home? What are some things that they can do to not only comply with whatever their organization has in place, but what are some things that they should be doing to make sure that everything is protected? Things that they should be aware of right now.
Yeah, I think, and I say this even to my family, my parents, and everybody else, in general. I think improving your digital awareness is primary, okay? I think companies have this yearly security training. I think you should take that seriously. Even if you don't do it, some of the core of that training is about learning about, phishing and general email security. Things like, don't randomly click on a link that you get on your phone which looks like it's come from your bank. Your bank will never send you such links. Just learning these types of things, that I should not be doing this. Just pay attention to that crazy URL on the top of your browser, which looks like, oh, they are asking this information saying my password has expired and I should really click on this, right? Those types of things, the more people learn about it, their awareness gets increased, and so they just become better digital citizens of doing this. That's kind of number one, I feel. For employees in particular, I think everybody should pay that extra attention and set up multi-factor auth for everything, including your email. Everybody uses Gmail or one of these platforms. They all come with multi-factor authentication. Everybody, I've noticed people are happy to set up a two-factor auth for a bank transaction, because there's money involved or whatever. They don't mind that the text or SMS that comes from the bank, but then they don't set it up for all their other digital properties, even though like even LinkedIn or all these guys offer it. I think it's time to do it. It's just better hygiene from that perspective. And the last thing I'd like to say, especially for employees, is they feel a little ashamed, or they feel bad about communicating something if they feel something has happened. Like, let's say they were at a Starbucks or they use some public Wi-Fi and they see something weird happen. They don't communicate that to their IT, which now gives a bad actor, that much more time. If something has happened, let's say their laptop or something did get impacted, if they had just communicated that, or build that channel or that relationship with their IT, saying, hey, you know what, this is something weird that I noticed, but can you take a look, right? That might mitigate so much more damage that can happen later. So I would feel like employees in particular should build that open communication with their IT without feeling like, oh, they screwed up or they did something wrong. There is no right or wrong here. It will hit everybody eventually. So,
and that's a really good point. That point about feeling comfortable with the IT guys, right? To be able to be like, hey, here's something wrong. Because I think in my career, I think that's where you see most people. They just, oh no, they don't say anything, or it will go away, or and they're not really thinking about it.
right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Kris, thank you so much for joining us today. I think this is all very valuable, especially during these times. And can you please let everybody know where they can learn more about you and Egnyte and the work that you guys do over there?
Sure. We are at egnyte.com, Egnyte. I'm Kale Lahiri at egnyte.com, and do follow me on my Twitter handle, which is @governanceguru, because I try and keep a persona where I bring up all data governance issues and just discuss these types of things.
Awesome. Thank you so very much again.
Appreciate it.